Welcome to the Granite School District School Community Council Training 2013 for new members. These segments will be broken down into 3 different quick online video presentations so that those folks who have not received formal training will get the information that they need. With respect to the new member training, I expect this video to last about 10-15 minutes at the most. The others are equal, if not a little longer or a little shorter. So to get going and quickly move along, I'd like to just quickly jump into what the School Community Council is. Now, at the school district level, we have a Board of Education comprised of 7 members. These members serve 4-year terms. They're elected geographically throughout the 300-plus square miles of Granite School District. They hold meetings monthly with study sessions as a needed basis. They have policy-making authority regarding administrative decisions and school organization, and also they tax you. Now, the school board has a 30,000-foot level view and vision of the school district. You as a school community council member serve at the local level and are intended to have site-based local decision-making. Now, the decisions and authority that you are giving are slightly different than the Board of Education, yet you are still supposed to have the same type of vision, although that vision is going to be at the 300-foot, 1,000-foot level because you are there in the trenches at the ground level seeing how your school functions. So that's kind of the vision that you should have as a school community council, is there being at the local level, there to help make decisions at the local level. Now, a lot of people who are new to school community councils don't understand that the primary function of the school community council is to allocate funding to increase academic achievement and improvement. There are some other things that we're going to discuss in some of the other segments, some other goals and focuses that you should have as a school community council, but I wanted you to understand how the school community council came about and what the primary function is. There are lands throughout the state of Utah that Utah owns. Actually, Utah school children own. Millions of acres throughout our state that actually are comprised, when consolidated, larger than the state of Connecticut. SITLA, which is the School Institutional Trust Lands Administration, manages those lands and then in turn creates revenue. That revenue is invested. It's not actually by the state treasurer anymore, but by a state committee that oversees those funds. And then the dividends are then distributed back to local schools. The school community councils then develop plans to use those funds to improve academic performance at their local school. This is a map of the state of Utah, and you can see there's a variety of different colors of lands throughout the state. There's national parks. You can see on the west side, west of the Great Salt Lake, there's some military installation lands for the Utah Test and Training Range, where they drop bombs and test out missile guidance systems. You can see the green national forest lands. And then there's also these blue lands that checkerboard the entire state. These are the school institutional trust lands. These are what the revenue is derived from, and then you are allocated to spend on a per pupil basis at your local school. Now, in your handbook that we provided to you electronically, there's a list of objectives, responsibilities, and specific job descriptions and membership requirements for your school community council. I would encourage you to look at those on a regular basis. In fact, in your meetings, you should have an agenda item that is specifically designated to reviewing responsibilities and acknowledging your objectives as a school community council. We don't want you to lose focus of what your goals actually are. There's also some administration and school board responsibilities as they apply to school community councils, and it's important for you to understand what role your school principal or your administrator has in this process, as well as what the school board, what their responsibilities are as well. Now, In order to assess data and look at the information that you have available to you and make some appropriate conclusions about what these funds should be allocated on, it's important that you look at some data and then develop a vision. This is an important quote from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. He's the author of the Sherlock Holmes book series and obviously is very logical. He says, "I never guess. It is a capital mistake to theorize before one has data. Insensibly, one begins to twist facts to suit theories instead of theories to suit facts." We need to look at data and then create some theories as opposed to creating theories and then looking to get data to support those theories. You have lots of school data that's available to you. CRT scores from the past. You can there's some school classroom data that's available to you as well. And your principal should be going through that process of letting you look at and identify where the critical needs are within each of your individual schools. With that information, you should then identify what those needs should be and where you can allocate and focus your funds as part of your school land trust plan. Now, in any of these processes, I always encourage our principal to use layman's terms. Sometimes we say CRT scores. That's criterion reference testing. That's our essential end of year testing. It's actually going away. There's a new test called the SAGE test, but essentially serves the same function. We have a number of assessments and acronyms that we use in the education world, and it's important that we break away from the edge-speak and talk to our parents in layman's terms. They're educated, they're great, they want to volunteer, they want to understand this, and we need to make sure they do understand what the data looks like and what these terms mean so that we can come to the appropriate conclusions and allocate the funds in an appropriate way. As you create your land trust plan, you've assessed some academic needs, you've identified your priorities. Now you need to select some goals which will help you focus your funds. You select a goal, but remember those goals need to be SMART. And when we talk about SMART goals, that means that they are very specific. Say you have identified that your 5th grade math scores are consistently lower throughout the school year. You've been able to go back and look at data that shows that there's consistently a problem with the way 5th grade math is taught or assessed, and you want to focus your funds there. So make sure that your goal is specific to addressing the needs of 5th grade math. Make sure that it's measurable, that it's something that we can identify growth in, and that those goals are certainly attainable. We don't want to have goals that we can't accomplish. It should be relevant, obviously, to 5th grade math. That's what you're focused on, and the timing is critical. It needs to be something that can be addressed within that time, that school year that you serve, and that the plan has an effect in. We don't want to be setting goals for 2 or 3 years down the road or 5 years down the road. We need to set something that we can accomplish by the end of the school year. So if 5th grade math truly was your focus, we want to raise our SAGE scores by 3 percentage points across the board. That would be a very specific, measurable, attainable, and very relevant goal. Now, in addition to that, your goals should also adhere to or meet Board of Education goals. For instance, the Board of Education has 2 very broad-sounding goals to improve academic achievement and increase community engagement. However, if you break these goals down, they come into play in a 5-year strategic plan that has very specific details that take up about 20 pages. For instance, as part of the increased community engagement goal, we want 90% of our parents to feel welcome in their schools. That's going to be there's some very specific criteria that goes into that and how we'll be able to measure that. But it's part of a 5-year strategic plan. So even the board's goals, even though they may seem very general, your goals should also work to play into these Board of Education goals. Now, as we look at that land trust funds, it's important that you decide how much money you're going to spend on any specific area. If you're allocating specific funds for your 5th grade math scores, for instance, you're going to want to create a budget and identify and make sure that you have that much money to spend. Is there some grants or matching funds or our business partners interested in being involved in that goal? We have a resource development person at the district level who can sometimes identify goals or grant programs available at the federal level. You might be able to go out and identify a business partner, maybe Big O Tire, a local business owner, wants to, you've shown him your SMART goals and what your land trust plan is, and maybe he says, I'd like to contribute $500 to that or match the funds you're putting into that if I could see a potential academic outcome. Know what you can and cannot fund. And if you look inside your handbook, there's a very specific list that we've allocated to you, and we've also sent that to you as part of a separate document that's been updated. You can always go to schoollandtrust.org, and there's a very specific list there of things that you can and cannot fund as part of your plans. Lastly, you always need to be able to measure your progress. All right, it's important as you go throughout the school year and in all of your meetings that you take some time and review how your goals are coming along. The plan gets approved in the fall and submitted online. Make sure you execute and share the results of how that's going. You need to publicize your plan. It's good, better, best. It's good that your school community council knows what your goals are, but does your community know? That would be better, but best would also be that your policymakers, namely your state legislators and state senators, know how the funding is coming down and how you're allocating those funds towards improving academic achievement. They have the control over the purse strings on those funds, and it's important that they understand how that funding is being spent. If you have an activity, a math night that goes along with your specific goal, for instance, invite them to participate. Even if they don't come, it's important that they know how those funds are being used. If they want to continue to allocate funding towards this program and provide you with the opportunity to play an important role in allocating that funding, they need to know how the funds are being spent. Every fall, the report from the previous year gets submitted, and it's important that your families and your communities and your legislators and elected officials know how those funds were spent from the previous year. That concludes the first segment for new members for our school community council training. If you have any questions, you can always submit questions to communications@graniteschools.org, or you can call me directly. My name is Ben Horsley at 385-646-4529. If I don't have the answer, I know people that do. You can also go to schoollandtrust.org and get a number of your questions answered. Hopefully our handbook is a great resource to you. Our contact information is in there as well. This concludes the first segment. I would encourage you as a new member to also watch the second segment, which is for all members, which is an updated version of law and other critical points of emphasis necessary for you to have a successful school community council. Thank you so much for listening to this segment.